Now for our final and last Start Ed Talk before our rapid fire interview, I am so pleased to introduce to you the head of education for the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, the former Deputy Secretary for Education under President Barack Obama, a gentleman who has led political, philanthropic efforts, as well as started out as an entrepreneur in the EdTech space. Please welcome Jim Shelton.
Morning. So my job is to make up all the time that we ran over. And I heard what Larry said about like what I'm supposed to do on purpose. I'm not exactly clear that that's exactly how it's supposed to work. But what I am gonna do is try to make sure that every dollar that we invest has a social return that hopefully will ultimately not be unprecedented, but today will be unprecedented. It's a funny thing to come after the three previous speakers because they said a lot of what I want to say. Deb started off by saying we need a broader definition of success, and she's right. And talked about how people, when they have options, what they look for in the education that they look for their kids. Larry talked about personalizing education. He talked about what we got right and some of the things that we got wrong. A lot of times when people say personalizing education, they mean people being able to work at their own pace. We know it's a lot more than that. We also know we need to know a lot more than that. So I'll spend a second talking about that. And then Gerard talked about the broad landscape and how it's about to change. But the interesting thing is that in an environment where you want people to have the ability to find their fit as individuals, doing it in an environment where they can find the school where there's a good fit could be arguably the first step. Now, I don't want to get into much about any of that argument today, because when we talk about education, I really find that people are combining a conversation about 5 things: learning, teaching, organizational norms and governance, policy, and politics. And we spend the vast majority of our time over the last decades on the last 3. I want to spend today talking about the first 2. Learning and how we actually make it much better, meaning the experience of it and the outcome of it, than what happens almost every day. Now, anyone who's had the opportunity to hear me speak at any almost given point has heard me talk about this thing called Bloom's 2 sigma problem. How many people here know what Bloom's 2 sigma problem is? Raise your hand. Sweet. Many of you have not heard me speak before. All right. So there was this guy, actually a well-known researcher, and it's important to know what his first question was. His first question was, if we give children an idealized environment, how well could they do? And what he decided his proxy for that was going to be is, if I could give every child a one-to-one tutor, what would happen? And he set up a controlled experiment, and he did it. Gave some kids a one-to-one tutor and a matched set of kids normal classroom instruction. And what he found was that the kids with the one-to-one tutor outperformed the kids in a normal classroom by 2 standard deviations. For those of you who are like me who say, what? That means the 50th percentile kid goes to the 98th percentile. Okay? So now, run that experiment again, get the same result. Run that experiment again, get the same result. What does that mean? It means what everybody in this room knows. It's never the kid. It's never been about the kid. It's about, can we provide them with the kind of learning experiences that produces that kind of an outcome for every single kid? So if somebody discovered this 35 or 40 years ago, why haven't we just done it? Money, people, practicality, any way you want to define it, we're not ready to do that. But now we have the problem to be solved. The problem to be solved is, can we provide every child that kind of learning experience at a cost we're willing to pay? Some people get mad at me when I put that last piece on there because they say, you ought to just be willing to do it. I can't have that conversation. But what I can have in this room, in EdTech Week, is this. The only way we have a shot at achieving those outcomes for every single kid at a cost that it seems we are willing to pay is if technology plays a significant role. Now what it looks like, how it plays out, really important for us to figure out. We haven't yet. Let's be clear. If somebody in here says they've got a product that produces 2 standard deviations, I'd say for whom and in what context? I think my N would get really small. So now, sorry, I set a timer because they told me to make it my time, but I'm going to run over. So now the question becomes, well, what can technology actually do for us? And I want to run through just really quickly a list, but focus on what I think is ultimately the most important, because the access piece is really important. Like being able to get great quality content and interactive experiences to kids anywhere they happen to be, tremendously important. Being able to take that data and tailor the experience to the specific needs of the child, really, really important. But perhaps the most important thing about technology and education that I want everyone in this room to remember is that for the first time, it makes the process of learning transparent. We can watch it happen. You can connect every 0 and 1 associated with it. And what that ought to enable is us to learn much more quickly about learning than we ever have before. Now, in order for us to do that, we have to, as a community of people who are invested in producing dramatically different learning outcomes by leveraging the power of technology, agree to do some things so we can actually learn together and learn fast. So what I would say to you for the rest of the day, and frankly the rest of your time in this space, is that question about how you are enabling learning faster about learning needs to be at least as important as UX. And with that, I'm going to stop, because we way over. Thank you.